Very good. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dexter McLeod, President and CEO of the Los Angeles South Chamber of Commerce. We cover all of South Los Angeles and part of the South Bay. Today, we are talking about sidewalk vending, AKA also known as street vending, in the city of Los Angeles, which is a very, very important hot topic that's going on in the city. And we have our presenters and speakers today, and I will introduce them in just a second. Prior to introducing them, again, I want to welcome all of you all that's on the Zoom call today. Go ahead and please feel free to put your information, your business information, contact information in the chat. We are always networking in the chat room. So if you have any announcements, any questions, we are monitoring the chat. So put that in the chat room as well. So thank you for your participation today. So as I mentioned earlier at the start of this meeting, this was brought to my attention again, because we knew that the deadline to get your permits and then the enforcement was starting in the city. And then of course, we've been seeing some clips and segments on the local news about enforcement with the street vendors. Been a Chamber of Commerce representing South Los Angeles, also representing small businesses, mom and pop businesses. This is an important topic for us. I have asked one of our members, Relay Malone, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and your business, and then we'll come back to you so you can share some of your experiences that you have had as a sidewalk vendor in the city of LA. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Renee.
Hello, everybody. My name is Renee Malone, and I am the owner of Pamper Life Naturals. Pamper Life Naturals is an all-natural plant-based skincare company, and I am based out of South Los Angeles, but I service the Los Angeles County area, and I have been in business for a little bit over 5 years. And as well, I am a member of the LA South Chamber, and I've been a member for about a year.
Very good. Thank you, Renee. And like I said, we're going to come back to you because I do want you to share some of your experiences out there. We have some good folks on the call to address some of that. So as I mentioned, we have, I believe, two presenters, maybe three presenters. So I'm going to hand it over to Angelica, and then Angelica can introduce her team, as well as I believe we have another speaker on the call representing the LA City Enforcement Office. So go ahead, Angelica.
Thank you, Dexter. It's always a pleasure to come back to connect with friendly faces, friendly voices. Someday in the future, near future, hopefully we'll be able to engage in person. It's my pleasure and our pleasure as our team, the Imagen Group, to be collaborating with our colleagues, City of Los Angeles, specifically the Streets LA team. And that is a department that oversees the vending program, the vending permit program, not only for sidewalks, but also parks. And also joining from my team is Desiree Alvarado. And we also will have some additional information, and we're excited to have Chief David Rivera from Streets LA to be able to provide more insight on enforcement and answer any questions you might have as it pertains to your experiences with vending and what does it look like moving forward. So the beauty is that for the vendors, the deadline was extended. It was scheduled to lapse July 1st, and fees were scheduled to go up. For the time being, those fees are going to be extended through July 1st of 2022. So while the focus is heavy on education for the remainder of the year, that doesn't mean there won't be enforcement if there are things that are, in terms of the health and safety of our community and our vendors. So again, the focus is education, making sure that we arm the vendors in our community with the resources they need to be able to secure the permits, but also knowing that if there is something that is creating harm or not a safe environment, then obviously you might be talking and seeing our friends from enforcement. So I think we're ready to get started. Desiree, if you could please help us start with the getting the deck up and running. And you'll see shortly, you'll start seeing this if you haven't already seen it. This is our logo. I haven't even started, I'm already getting scratchy throat, sorry. This is our logo for the campaign. And a couple of weeks ago, actually, we had the pleasure of working with the folks from the West Adams Neighborhood Council and Department of Transportation. And it was really rewarding to see some of the vendors coming up because they identified with the little cart. So anytime you see that little cart, anytime you see any of the community groups with that look and feel, that's something that our team created. And again, if you would like to have that information and share that information, we have resources that can be shared via social media. So as you can see there, we have a year in terms of before those fees goes up, July 1st of 2022. So let's take a look at some of the things that we're going to be covering today. We chose to have a streamlined presentation, and then there's something more in depth as we need it in the future. So why is it essential to get your permit? We'll walk you step by step in securing the required permits. You start off with getting the BTRC, that's through the City of Los Angeles. And second is a seller's permit through the state of California. Those first two, there are no fees attached to that, and those are relatively easy to secure. Third, if you're selling food, you're going to be also securing the health permit from LA County Department of Public Health. And then regardless of whether you sell food or merchandise, you'll close out by receiving your vending permit from the City of LA, Streets LA team. There are plenty of resources. We're going to talk about the locations for free assistance in the community, along with our team that is available to help any of the vendors. I noticed in the chat somebody that said I need help with our permits. Our team is also available to help you with that. And then information about COVID vaccines, right? We encourage, if you haven't already, is getting the word out and taking your friends and your neighbors, your family members to get their vaccine. And then we have frequently asked questions. We'll talk about the LA Alfresco program, and then we have Chief Rivera, who is going to then answer and be available to answer any specific questions that you would have, enforcement or other things that really are more high level, that he'll be able to get those answered, so you'll walk away with all the information that you're looking for today. So let's get started. Take a look at those 8 locations. We know which is closest, but all of those 8 locations are part of the family, the business source centers, and they're aligned to this program. When it was created, it was the intent of having a vendor, whether you sell merchandise or hot dogs or my pupusas, is having a place where you can grow your business, right? Yes, a business of one can grow into having 3, 4, 5 carts. And so these business source centers are in place all over the city of Los Angeles to help you as either current vendors or aspiring vendors to secure the permits and also learn about other things that are important. Here are some of the resources and services that they offer there. So extensive technical assistance to the vendors. That's anything from understanding the permit requirements through the process, right? Completing the process. Information on accessing capital, and that could be including referrals to the city's microloan program, small business development information, planning and management of your business, marketing, banking information, more about financial literacy, and the procurement of property liability insurance. And then taxes, the dreaded taxes, right? But we need to have more information on it and how you can benefit as a small business owner. And cash management. And then the last one, electronic payment acceptance, which really has become much more important and essential, especially during these times of COVID, is ensuring the smooth and also preventing any potential burglaries and robberies out there for you. So this image that you're seeing here, it is found inside of our resource guide. So at the end, I also shared our website at the beginning. You can have access to the complete resource guide. If you don't have it in person, accessing it through one of the organizations, you can download the information. It's on our website. But this is giving you a snapshot of the process, right? The path that you're going to be completing to secure the vending permit. And again, we'll start with taking you to the business source centers. And then depending on what you're selling, whether you're selling merchandise or food, you're going to see the different steps that are required. So visually, you can see off the top of there that the food person is going to require a little bit more time intensive as well to securing that permit. So first things you'll need to get started is a photo ID. So that could be a driver's license, it could be a California ID, it could be a passport. Any of those that are government issues are acceptable. Second, you'll need a taxpayer number, and that could be one of 2 things. It could be your social security number, or it could also be an I-10. And if a person doesn't currently have an I-10, then one of those business source centers that we showed earlier, they can assist the individual in securing the I-10, which is required then before you move on the process to securing the permits. So this is what a person who needs to secure the ITIN, the identification, taxpayer identification number, you must file Form W7, and that's with the IRS. It's the individual taxpayer identification number, the ITIN, and that goes along with your federal income tax return. You're also going to need to provide original documentation or certified copies from the issuing agency to prove your identity and the foreign status. So the places where you can actually get help, or anybody that you know, is either at the IRS Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Centers, those are referred to as ITIN centers or VITA centers, or at one of those 8 business source centers that we shared early on. So one of those places can actually assist a person with getting the permit. So what are you selling? Maybe you don't know what you're going to be selling, but this is going to give you an idea visually. We're going to show this a couple of times because we know we've heard, right? Repetition, repetition. You're going to start visualizing. You're going to visualize yourself already out there with all the permits you need in selling. So a person selling food, you see that process there. It's a little bit more extensive because we're involving LA County Public Health. And in that case, you're going to be permitting the cart, not yourself, but the cart. And down below, fairly simple process. You could actually secure this in a day, 2 days max. It's all online right now with the city of LA and the state of California. And then you move on to the third phase. So here it is again, right? What do you need? You start off with your social security number, the ITIN number. You get assistance at one of the 8 business source centers. And then there's your process, right? Fairly simple for somebody who's selling merchandise. You get the BTRC from the Department of Finance, a seller's permit, and then you close out by getting your permit with Streets LA in the city of downtown Los Angeles. And the only added step there that you see there with the person selling food is number 3, the public health permit, and that's issued through LA County Public Health, where you're permitting the actual cart. Then you can get your vending permit from Streets LA in downtown Los Angeles. So even though we're into the pandemic and 16 months into the pandemic, most of the offices are closed by appointment only. So it makes it easier for you. Those first 2 steps, the first one, the BTRC, which is the business tax registration certificate, you can actually get that very easily. If you don't have a computer, one of the business source centers can assist you or our team can help you. And that's done virtually right now, right? So they will be sending you, once you complete the application, you'll receive an email. And then in the mail, you'll get actually your hard copy. And that, again, should take about a day. And there is no fee for that. But once you sell so much merchandise or so much delicious food, you might have to be paying some taxes. That's a reason to celebrate, right? That means your business is thriving. Second step is actually your seller's permit. That's through the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. The acronym for them is CDTFA. Again, everything is online for them. They do have an office in Culver City for those of you that want to know where they're located. But we just go online there to the web address there. And again, one of the counselors at the Business Source Center or our team can assist you in walking through that process. Again, fairly simple. In a day, you'll get a confirmation email, and then you'll receive in the mail a hard copy. And again, depending on your sales, is the amount of fees that you might be responsible for the following year. I believe it's still in effect for a time there. Anything that was tied to the pandemic, whether it be masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, they were waiving any taxes on that. So we'll have to check to see if that's currently in place with the CDTFA. So here's a visual. I want you to visualize, you know how they say, some of you that are into meditation, that if we visualize ourselves already out there, and that's what we're trying to do here, right? You're already out there, you're selling your fragrances, candles, we have t-shirts, caps. We know we have sports season out there. People are going to be selling their baseball caps and shirts. I know we have some of the vendors I've helped in the past who sell some really unique items from Africa. There's some beads. Just visualize yourself out there, right? You'll be getting the BTRC through the Department of Finance that we talked about earlier. And then the second step, right? That's the seller's permit through the state of California. And there you are out there selling, following all the rules and regulations to help you become a successful merchandise vendor. So here are the extra steps, right? This is for somebody who's going to be then wanting to sell food. You're going to secure the first 2 that we talked about, the BTRC through the Department of Finance, the seller's permit from the Department of Fee Administration, and then you go on to the third step, right? Now you're going to be interfacing with LA County Public Health, where you're going to be getting the permit, the cart permitted, not yourself. So a couple steps here. First, you're going to submit 2 sets of detailed cart plans for them. If you don't have an actual cart, but you have the plans, you're going to be detailing those plans. Or maybe you already have a cart, you just want to see if this cart is meeting the specifications. And then you're going to complete the plan check application. Once you've gone through that, you've had the inspection, if everything is okay, then you finish off with paying the plan check fee, depending on the type of food you're going to be selling. That's going to have a bearing on a lot of things as it pertains to LA County Public Health. So who needs a permit, LA County Public Health permit? As you can see here, carts are varied. So anybody who has a mobile cart is required to have a public health department health permit. And so mobile food facility is either a cart, a truck, trailer that people use to sell food and beverages. So I'm going to clarify here, and I'm going to talk about it later with some visuals, is this does not include, we might see that, and we're seeing more of them in our communities. When you see those pop-ups, refer to them as pop-ups, where it looks like it's somebody who's getting ready for a tailgate party, right? Those are not legal. There are no permits for those, where somebody's setting up a table, a huge grill, an awning, and has their condiments on the table. There is no permit for that, those pop-ups. We're only talking about somebody who has a cart. And the cart is going to really be dependent on the food that you sell. And then within the category, you're going to see that public health classifies food in 2 other categories. So it could be prepackaged or it could be unpackaged. So some examples for you: prepackaged food has already been wrapped by a manufacturing company. So in that category, it could be popcorn, right? If it's in a bag, it could be water, it could be soda pop. It could be ice cream that's wrapped in a plastic wrap, or maybe some chips. And maybe there's some fruit, some healthy items that are already wrapped up, and that's prepackaged. The second is unpackaged food, and that's you out there in the community doing what you do best, right? Preparing or partially preparing that delicious food that people kept saying, you got to sell this. This is delicious. So things like hot dogs, corn on the cob, our pupusas, tamales, those kinds of things, and anything else that you're out there selling, as long as you have a cart that is able to enable you to sell, prepare that in a safe way, you can actually have a cart permitted to sell that item out in the city of Los Angeles. This process, as you saw earlier, there's a little bit more involved, more steps, could take you about 4 weeks. So be patient. Some people choose to actually be selling merchandise while they're waiting to get the food permit, as long as they have the merchandise permit. We'll talk about that a little later. So this is so we get you familiarized with some of the forms that you're going to be seeing as you're going through this process. Again, Public Health Department issues the permit for the cart and not the individual. So I'll explain that a little further there. For instance, within our communities, right, we have our families. It's become a family operation, a family business. So we have the mom, the dad, and a couple of kids. The cart, it's only one cart, that needs to be permitted. So all of those people, as long as one of them has a seller's permit, a vending permit, excuse me, they're able to actually be able to go out there that day and sell if it's actually under the same family. And I'll have Chief to actually confirm, because I'm hearing conflicting on those things. If it's one business who says, these are my employees who are selling on my behalf, I believe that is how that's applicable there. So what you'll have then is the 2 sets of the plans that we talked about, 2 sets of detailed plans. You're going to complete your plan check application. And then at the end, you're going to pay the plan check fees depending on the type of cart that you actually are presenting that wanting to get confirmed. And this is actually where you go to take part, to get it approved. It's the plan check program, and that's where you schedule the final inspection. So this is after you've built the mobile food cart and you've had the plans approved. Remember that, you have to have those plans approved. Then you go and make the appointment, and you're going to be going to Baldwin Park, and there's the address on Commerce Drive. The plan check will conduct the final inspection of the mobile food cart to verify that the cart was built to specifications. So this is where I want you to remember and really let it sink in that when you submit those plans and they've been approved by the department, don't go back and say, I really don't need that. I think I could cut back on my costs. Or you know what, I forgot that, I want to add this. If you do that and you end up showing up to have your cart inspected, guess what? They're going to kick it back and you got to start that process all over again because you modified the plans. So once those plans are approved, they're stamped, do not modify unless you want to start that whole process again, and that's another 4 weeks minimum. So here are a couple of options as well, and I see Torrance will probably be the closest for most of you. These are the plan check offices, right? This is where you're going to walk in with your plans to get them approved so that you can then move forward with the inspection part. You've got an office there in Panorama City for those people that have friends or family in the Valley. We have a location in downtown Los Angeles, that's the Metroplex office, and then the office closest to you there in the South Bay in the city of Torrance. So then what happens, right? You already had the permit, the plans approved, you've completed the inspection part. This is now what you're going to need to complete before you can actually get your final approved permit from the LA County Public Health folks. You're going to need to also present what's called a commissary contract. And we will talk about that. And we have actually a list with some commissaries if you need that, those of you that are already at that stage. Second, you'll need a route slip. And this route slip is for your protection as well in 2 ways. One, it tries to minimize maybe some competition of somebody along that same area that might be selling what you're selling. But more than anything, if there seems to be any problems out there in the community, there's a report. Remember, as a permitted vendor, you have the ability to call a special hotline to get some assistance out there. So now they know where you are. A route slip is going to let them know that I'm going to be selling my food along this corridor Monday through Friday. So there again, the address where you're going to be submitting all of these documents with the County of Los Angeles Department of Public Works, and it's through the Environmental Health Unit Plan Check Program. There again, the same address that we showed earlier on Commerce in the city of Baldwin Park. Now this is where we then look at the fees, right? So how much am I going to be paying? It's going to be all dependent on what you're going to be selling, right? We talked about earlier, you saw that, right? Prepackaged, packaged food, that's all going to have a bearing on what your cost is going to be. So the commissary, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, this is something that is required by public health, and it's to help make your life easier, and it's also to ensure that our carts and our food that we're going to be selling is healthier and we're keeping it safe. So all carts that are permitted are required to have access, and this is where they're going to be stored, at an approved commissary. And these are things that happen there at the commissary, right? You're going to store your food, your containers, and your supplies. This is where you're going to prep and package your food that you're going to be selling. This is where you're going to be washing your utensils and equipment, draining any of the liquid waste and garbage at the end of your successful day out there vending. You're going to bring all that back and not leave it out on the streets unless there's a place that you could actually dispose of properly. You need to bring that back and dispose of it here at the commissary. This is also where you're going to refill the tanks with clean water. And you're going to star the cart, go home and rest, and start another successful day of vending, picking up the cart, loading everything up, and off you go. I know that there are discussions right now in terms of identifying locations. Unfortunately, because of COVID and the pandemic, we have a number of restaurants that shut down, right? We have kitchens that are out there. I know that there's conversations right now with various committees at the county level and then within the city as well, is how do we identify some of these community kitchens then that could be approved, and it could basically free up some space and make it easier for our vendors to find a location closest to where they're selling and closest to their homes. So here are a couple of options. So say, for instance, we're selling hot dogs or anything that is prepackaged. Remember, we talked about, unpackaged. We're preparing that in a community. You're going to be paying $746, a one-time fee, so that they can review your plans. And then moving forward, your annual fee will be $772. The second person is somebody who's selling food that is prepackaged. Remember, we talked about that. So it could be chips, it could be popcorn that's already packaged, it could be water, ice cream that's already packaged up. That's considered prepackaged. I am going to then pay as well $746 for my plan check. And then moving forward, annually, my permit for selling prepackaged food is going to be $393. So stickers, you're going to be seeing a lot of stickers, and that's going to be a way for you, as whether it's a consumer or whether it be the enforcement team, to know who's out there and who's actually permitted. It actually brings peace of mind to consumers as well when they see that they're buying something from somebody who actually has somebody watching over them. So again, depending on the type of food you're going to be selling, is going to be the color of sticker you're going to have affixed to your cart. The yellow one will be for those of you that are going to be selling food out there that's limited preparation, like your hot dogs, your corn on the cob, your tamales. They're going to be having the yellow sticker. You got the prepackaged food, like you see there on the little carts. Again, somebody who has the ice cream cart, it's green. The one on the left is the person who's going to be preparing food out in the community. You see that cart is much more sophisticated. And so that's going to be your way of telling, as a consumer and as a vendor yourself, if those other vendors around you are permitted or not. So in addition to those, these are familiar to all of us who have gone to restaurants, maybe those of us that haven't gone to restaurants in quite a bit these last 16 months, but just as much care that a restaurant would take in ensuring that they secure an A and maintain an A, you want the same for yourself as a small business owner, as a vendor. Because remember, when there's people out in the community and they're choosing a sidewalk vendor versus a restaurant who's already selling on the sidewalk versus with the Alfresco, if they see a couple of vendors and they just pass somebody who has an A, they moved on and saw the next one has a B, and they get to you, they really were craving your food, but they see a C. Doesn't matter how good your food is, they already saw an A and a B, they might bypass your C and go back to number A. So really, I encourage you, just think about, once you get that A, do everything possible to maintain that A. Remember earlier, I talked about the carts in terms of the types of cart that were permitted. I wanted to share so that you see visually for yourselves the types of carts that are not permitted, right? There are no permits for these. So while you might see the vendor at the top, you might say, well, he's got a cart. Why isn't that permitted? Well, he's selling food. We see the big hot dog pictures right there, right? I've got something on the ground. I'm hoping that's not meat. And I don't think that that cart is big enough to have the refrigeration that's needed to keep that the condiments cold, to keep the meat separate from the other. And are there the sinks, right? If you're going to be selling something that has to be prepared out there, you need sinks. That's why that vendor at the top most likely is not permitted. Those other other images are what we classify as pop-up restaurants, and you're seeing those showing up in communities, in our neighborhoods, on the corners, in shopping centers, on sidewalks, right? Anytime you see one of those are not permitted. And even if they go through one of these webinars, there are no permits to help those vendors secure a vending permit. What we can do, let's work on getting them moved into the direction to be able to actually prepare food that can secure a permitted food vending cart. Well, you might ask, well, what's the matter with these? Why aren't these permitted? These, many, and this is going to be found in our rules and regulations guide, it's where it's situated, right? This is all about when we're vending, there are rules and regulations as in everything. And that's why we live in the city and this country, is so that we can ensure our safety. There are limitations and the restrictions. So for instance, you have to have a depth of at least 18 inches from the edge of the curb, the sidewalk, the street, to where you're selling. And so if these vendors are right up at the edge of the sidewalk, one, it's not safe for them. It's not safe for others. In cases of those that are by the crosswalk, right? We're too close to the signal light. We're blocking access points there. That looks like an area that somebody that had a disability would be using a wheelchair, or the assistance of assistance dogs. They couldn't get through, and they're blocking the walkway. So that's the reasons why some of these, and there might be a mixed in food vendor in there as well. But that's just to give you a visual that there are rules and regulations. Once you get a permit, doesn't mean you're off the hook. Now it's about ensuring that you don't have our friends from enforcement come around and cite you because you're not following the rules and regulations. So these are our friends that for the past year and a half have been out in the community. This is a team from Streets LA. The enforcement team And they've been out this past year educating our community, handing out PPE, handing out information about where they could get help through the business source centers, all virtual, because that's how it's been the last year, and information on our resource guides, right? This is places that you could go. And warnings, right? If you're in a place that maybe is not safe for you and the vendors, they're in education mode. And you'll see them wearing a couple of different, you've seen our colleague on the left, she's wearing all black and long pants. They might be wearing shorts as the weather starts to cool up. I've also seen them sometimes wearing khakis, but you'll see if they're wearing a jacket or a shirt that it's going to have Streets LA or investigation enforcement. And if they're driving the car, you're going to see that on their car, right? So somebody coming rolling on up from LA County Public Health is going to be saying LA County Public Health. And we all know when it's LAPD, it's a different uniform, different letters on their cars, and you'll know the difference. So right now, for the remainder of the year, and Chief Rivera will talk about it a little later, it's really about education rather than enforcement. But again, if something is out there, it's out of sync, it's creating a safety hazard, endangering our community and our vendors, then enforcement needs to step in. Next slide, please. So as we close out the information tied to public health, lots of information, more that we can cover here, but I want you to have the details on where you can access more information. Some additional things that are really, really important, even much more now with COVID, is other requirements, right? Of somebody who's actually going to be selling food. The facility needs to be operated within 200 feet of an area approved for hand washing, right? And also for toilets. So it needs to be at least within 200 feet of where you're actually going to be selling. The public health permit, like the other permits, need to be renewed on an annual basis as well. And just like cars, if you're purchasing a car, you want to be very careful on three. Actually, I'm currently working with a vendor that contacted me that purchased a cart from somebody else. So if you come across a cart, it's a good price, the person says it's already been permitted, before you release any money, please make an appointment to have your cart inspected with the permits, the plans, to make sure that in fact that cart is permitted. The gentleman that I'm working with right now, he purchased a cart, but he still needs to go through that whole inspection process again because there's been a lapse in more than 2 years. So they need to make sure that that cart currently would pass in its current condition. So there you see on the bottom, there's a website, and you'll also have that information on the Streets LA Vending website, which will be links to public health for any more details that you might have. And I'll be available to answer questions tied to public health at the end of the presentation as well. Here are some numbers. It's always important to arm yourself because I know you might not have the questions right now, but questions will arise. And I want you to have these numbers available if you have additional questions. First one is the vehicle inspection program for more guidance on the permitted carts. There's our phone number. If your questions are tied more to the guidance on getting the cart plan approved, that whole process, and there's a number 2. And then third, this is, you're going to be our eyes and ears. So our community is our eyes and ears, our vendors are our eyes and ears. If you see something going on around you that is jeopardizing the health and safety of our community, then this is a number you've got to pick up the phone and call. That's the customer call center, 888-700-9995. And we have a different number, and the chief will share that. What are the other perks, again, to having the City of LA vending permit? You have a hotline, right? And that's open to our permitted vendors. If we see something going on in your community when you're out there and we need help, we need enforcement to come and help us out. So congratulations, you walked through that whole process. You've secured the first 2 permits. You got through public health 4 weeks. You got the cart permitted. Now you're ready to get your vending permit and take that last step with Streets LA in downtown Los Angeles. So what is it that I need to take with you? So remember, when we started the presentation, we talked about the photo ID. Well, you'll need to bring it in again, government issued ID. That could be your California driver's license, an ID, a US passport, or any other foreign consulate ID. And then you're going to bring those copies, not the originals, not the copies, of the business tax registration certificate from the city, the BTRC, from the Office of Finance, and then from the state of California, the California State Seller's Permit. And then those of you that just went through that long journey to get your cart permitted, don't forget the LA County Public Health permit that you're going to need to bring with you. And how am I paying for that? Well, you're going to be able to bring along either a check, cash, or money order. And then if you do all this before July 1st, by June 30th of 2022, but hopefully you get this done in the next couple of weeks or months and not wait till then, the fee will remain $291. It will go up effective July 1st to $541. So this is where you will be going after you call to make the appointment. Remember I said early on that while the state is open for business, our government offices are functioning at limited in terms of not walk-in basis, but actually asking the vendors to make an appointment. There's a phone number for you to call the team to find out when you can come in. Their hours are from 7 to 3:30, and they're really conveniently located there in downtown Los Angeles. There's a parking lot across the street, so that way you don't have to worry about where I'm going to park. It's right across the street. And if you take public transportation, there are a number of buses with the stops right by the building where Streets LA is located. So what is my permit? What am I going to have as proof? Well, this is what your vending permits will look like, right? Depending on what you're going to be selling. So take a close look as we look at the differences in our permits that you'll be issued. First is a person on the left who is selling only food, and they decided that they want to sell food on streets. The person in the middle is selling merchandise, and they decided, you know what, summer is heating up, people are going to the parks. I want to sell my t-shirts and caps and balloons and things like that. I want to sell that in the parks. And so you'll see there the icon of parks and recs. The third, which I recommend, there's not any additional fees. Remember when we talked about the process that it takes up to 4 weeks to get a food permit? What we recommend during that time, you could actually be selling merchandise and realize, oh, wow, I have another side business, another side hustle. I could actually start selling merchandise that's required, that's essential in my community. And then when I get the card approved, I can now get the food permit as well. So that's why you see the third person, right? The third person is able to sell food and merchandise. They're keeping all their options open. They're going to be able to sell on city streets and in the parks. So what happens here, if you're one of those people that are thinking about, maybe I will do that while I'm waiting to get my cart permitted, I know there's some things I can sell in my community. I know it's tough for my community to get to places. There's not a whole lot of markets. Not everybody has a car. I can sell these items. So you would go through the process that we just talked about. You would contact Streets LA. You'd make an appointment to get your merchandise permit. You pay your fee. And so when you finish the process of getting the cart permit, what you do then is you call Streets LA and say, I need to get my permit upgraded. Can you assist me with that? So you go back in, you're not paying an additional fee. What you'll be able to have now then is a permit like this person here, right? They can sell food or merchandise depending on their mood that day, or maybe multiple things. And I can sell both in city streets and in the parks. So again, there are a lot of flexibility. There's lots of flexibility right now, and that's just something that we're encouraging you to look at as a means to bring in some money, some income while you're waiting for that card to be permitted. So we want you to be successful, and we want you to already be aware of the rules and regulations. We're currently working on actually a guide, so that'll help you reinforce what are the things that are permitted and allowed as a vendor. There's a snapshot of all of our requirements for you to take in mind, as making sure that you always have your permits in your possession and that they're current. So in this case, we're talking about maybe there's a family and they each have a permit. Then that person needs to make sure that the permit they're taking out to sell that day, their permit from the city and the state, is their name on that permit and it's current and not expired. And the same thing will be if they're going to be out there selling food, they got to remember to bring along that cart. Remember, we only permit the cart, not the individuals, that they make sure that they bring that permit for the cart that day and it's current. Also, we need to be really, really aware of those no vending zones. We're going to be signs like this, modifications that'll say no vending in this area. And not only is it locations, but also some of our favorite spots, right? LA Live, Staples Center, Dodger Stadium, Hollywood Walk of Fame, Placito Olvera. Those are just a few of the actual public places where vending is not allowed. So remember when we showed you that picture earlier and we saw all of those people selling the merchandise? This is what we were looking at here. This is the location, right, where you can and can't be, and making sure that you have at least 18 inches from the edge of the sidewalk to the street, that you're not blocking an access point, that you're not too close to another vendor. Right now, more than ever, right? Even though they relax things, I think we just want to have more space. We're going to be safer all the way around, and ensuring that the space around you, you're going to become so popular, maybe your food is so sought after that it's going to be your responsibility as a vendor to ensure that lines are not formed where they're blocking traffic, the flow of traffic, right? That's going to be your responsibility. And all this again is on the vending website. Also the trash pickup and recycle where possible. Some of the items you'll be able to discard out in the location where you are, but some of our food vendors, as we talked about, that's why the commissaries are there. Some of the waste needs to be actually brought back to the commissary and disposed of in that area. If we're selling food again, I was in downtown LA a couple of weeks ago and I could see somebody was selling fruit, watermelon to be specific, and it was just strewn all over the sidewalk. So what we're asking is just put it in bags, right? It's making sure, ensuring that we don't have, you're attracting rodents, that you're not attracting bugs, any other things that are going to really create problems for the other neighboring businesses as well. So if you're selling food, make sure that your produce is bagged and protected from attracting bugs and rodents. Keep the sidewalks open for pedestrians and any individuals that might be coming along with the aid of any walkers or wheelchairs or assistance animals. Again, if you're selling food, not only do you have to be aware of the requirements at the local level through the county, but also following the state laws on food vending. Just more reminders here, and this is some of the information that the team from Streets LA has been sharing with vendors throughout the pandemic, and we need to continue thinking about those things as whenever possible, right? Is really keeping your space between vendors and trying to keep some space even as you have your customers coming around. You know, we're hearing about another 2 variants out there, so we just need to continue keeping safe. Recommendation to really be wearing those face coverings. If you've got extra face coverings, why not share? If somebody's coming around Streets LA or one of the nonprofits offering face guard, take one, right? You can use those. Here are a couple of questions that we have that have been asked of us in the past, and we're going to include some of your questions shortly. But, you know, why do I need a permit, or who needs a permit? Well, anybody who sells food or merchandise on City of LA sidewalks and city parks needs to have a permit. And so why do I need to have the permit? It protects you as a vendor and ensures the health, safety, and welfare of residents and visitors. How often do I need to renew my permit? That's every 12 months. And so what happens if I don't get a permit? That's where the fees step in, right? And our friend David's going to talk about those fines a little later, anywhere between $250 or $1,000, right? For not having a proper license, permit, or just not following the rules and regulations when you're out there in the community. And there you have the various addresses for the BTRC and the seller's permit. And as I said, all that you're able to secure online. There's the information for that, including where do I get my health permit through the Department of Health, and that is in the city of Baldwin Park. And then we close out when we have secured all the other permits. Where do I apply for my sidewalk and park vending permit? That'll be at headquarters. That's in the Public Works, sorry, I always get those mixed up. Public Works building, huge building on Broadway, and then you'll go to the Streets LA office and they'll help you with securing your permit there. Here are a couple of updates we also like to share, and I think that slide would say 2022, but there are various subcommittees that are working both at the city level and at the county in terms of ways to streamline the permit process. So now we know. The slide will be updated that it remains $291 until July of 2022. The Public Health Department is currently working on simplifying the permit process. I know right now there are actually 2 prototypes they're working on, very close to finalizing, where you'll be able to say, okay, my food falls into that category. I think one of them You could sell hot dogs, you can sell tamales, corn on the cob, and I think that's about it. Or foods that kind of fall into that category. There'll be one cart that's already approved that a person can say, okay, mine falls under cart number 1, or I sell fruit, I'm cart number 2. They're also looking at, I talked about that earlier, right? Identifying. Maybe you know of some, and please let us know. If in your community there are restaurants or community organizations that have kitchens that are commercial kitchens that can be identified as a potential place commissaries. We're looking at those kinds of options too to help our community. And then this last one, this is the reason why we need you permitted. There's financial resources that are going to be coming down the pike. Not a whole lot of details right now, but we know that the mayor a couple months ago during the State of the City address spoke about 3 buckets of money, right, for vendors, one of them being assistance with those food carts, and LA County as well. But we know what's going to happen is they're going to give first dibs to individuals that already have demonstrated their commitment, right? You've already started the process, and I have a merchandise permit. And I've already told you I'm selling merchandise, but I really want to sell food. So those are the ones that are going to be top of the list. And they're going to be the ones that community groups are going to tell Streets LA. We have some people that we've been working with over the years. I think they'd be really good candidates for some of the funding that you might have to assist them with the carts. Again, on the COVID-19, I can't stress this more than we're hearing our communities of color being impacted, our Black and Latino communities. Please go out there and get vaccinated. I was vaccinated and my family back in February. I'm still wearing my masks. I'm still very cautious when I go out, but I feel a lot more at ease, right? I'm able to be around my parents. I please encourage you to go out there and get your family and friends vaccinated. So here's some extra perks for those of you that are permitted food vendors. We currently are working with 2 permitted vendors right now and helping them collaborate with a restaurant in Venice so that they too can be taking part in Alfresco. So you've seen, those of you who've been out there, you've seen the restaurants that now have tables out into the sidewalk and into the streets. Well, you as a vendor could actually be out there too and prop up a table, a couple of chairs. So this is what LA Alfresco is all about. It's a temporary program that streamlines city requirements and approvals for outdoor dining on sidewalks, parking lots, and the streets during the mayor's stay-at-home order. The program will be available to all restaurants and permitted sidewalk vendors and food trucks in the city of Los Angeles. So these are the different options that are available. LA Alfresco options currently include different types of public and private spaces that may be used for outdoor dining during the COVID-19 emergency. Now, these could be private parking lots and other outdoor spaces on restaurant property. It could be on the sidewalks. It could be street parking spaces, which are the parklets. And then the last 2, the lane closures and street closures, that could be organizations like yours, right? The chamber could actually say, hey, we have 5, 6 vendors that we want to request this street. We want to do this on Thursdays and have this a way to bring our community together. Organizations, including the chamber, can reach out and apply and see if they can get approval for LA Alfresco lane closures or street closures to be able to support some of your restaurants and your permitted street vendors. So I highly encourage you to look at that option. As always, we know social media is how we all stay connected. Follow the Streets LA team. There you have the Facebook page. We have the Instagram, Twitter. We're working on creating a Facebook group so that we can have weekly updates. And then the place to be is the vending website, right? You're going to have all the updated information there. You're going to have copies, including if we can get this from your team there, we can get copies of the recordings that they'll actually be there past webinars. You'll have information on future webinars as well. And then here, if you have friends, this is what makes LA beautiful, why we enjoy all the wonderful food from different parts of the world. We have the guide that we talk about in 13 languages. So I encourage people, if you have friends from other countries that speak other languages, with their phone, the QR code will direct you onto the resource guide page where you could download any one of these languages, and then it'll take you back directly onto the website to stay connected to the vending website. So there's a lot of information. I know I jammed through this because I wanted to leave time for questions, and also, more importantly, have Chief Rivera open up and provide us any updates in reference to enforcement. And then with Dexter's help, and Desiree will be able to look at some of your questions that you might have. So I'm excited to see you out there to go taste some of the delicious food once you're permitted and be able to meet you, some of the vendors that I've been able to help over the phone and virtually. I look forward to meeting you soon in person, including Dexter, which I haven't met before.
Well, we met virtually for the past year.
Exactly. And a phone conversation here and there. And my buddy, when my car almost broke down, I had you on the other end. So
There you
thank
go.
you.
Very good. So I'm going to stop the recording, but before I do that, I want to see if the officer on the enforcement wants to go ahead and go on record here and just add any updates or any comments. And then we have quite a few questions. I have a few questions, and we want to make sure we get to everyone. So is it okay if we bring the officer up now? Give us an
He's right.
update?
I see David there.
I'm here. You ready?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is David Rivera. I'm the Assistant Chief with Streets LA and Investigation Enforcement Division. I oversee the Sidewalk Vending program for the City of Los Angeles. I'm happy to be here and I'm glad you guys invited me, and hopefully I can provide some information for you guys to help you, build your businesses and everything within the City of Los Angeles. So I guess go ahead and shoot with any questions you got.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. Just stand by. I am going to stop the recording. Thank you all.
It's going to be a while, bro.
Why are you stopping it, Dexter? It might be helpful to hear the Q&A for those that watch the replay.
All righty, I will keep it running then. How about that? All right. So again, Arnett, if you can help me with the questions, Desiree, if you can help me with some of the questions in the
Sure.
chat. Prior to that, I am going to ask Renee to share some of her experiences as well. And again, so Renee, you'll get ready. You're going to be first here. But I have a couple of questions. I guess I could go first since I'm one of the hosts here. So a couple of questions. And this is going to help everyone, I'm sure. The first one is, can you get these permits online, or do you have to physically go to an office?
You have to physically come into the office to obtain the permit, because when they give you the permit, it actually looks like an ID card. So they're going to take your photo, like some of the samples that Angelica showed you guys. Their photo will be on that ID card, and yes, you have to come into the office. We were planning on doing some mobile permitting last year, but then COVID hit, so that kind of stopped everything. So we have the capabilities to do it, but right now, because of the pandemic, we're not doing that right now. So everybody, yes, they do have to come to the office, and as Angelica said before, you will have to make an appointment because the offices are closed except by appointment only.
Very good, thank you. My other question is, if a vendor participates in a private event, we at the Chamber of Commerce, we host business expos, we do events with churches, we do events at community centers, we do events we rent out venues to do expos. Do they, if the vendor is not on the street, do they still have to have a permit?
Are you talking about a vendor on private property?
On private property, correct. So say we're at a church, in a church parking lot, and we're having a harvest.
That should be, well, you should be pulling a permit from either Building and Safety or LA Fire, right? To do a change of use permit. And that they're covered under that. Okay. We're only concerned with the public right of way. So yes, if you have the event on the public right of way and you actually obtain, say, a special event permit from my office, because we also do that, within your application, you're going to tell us, hey, I have 23 vendors or whatever. Now, part of the permitting process and approval of this permit, we're going to stipulate in there that make sure that everybody who's involved in your event is properly permitted or licensed or for whatever they're doing. So that's kind of like a stipulation for all, because we're not going to be able to check everybody, but overall you should, have some sort of management over who's within your event.
Very good, thank you. Mm-hmm. Renee, if you could please share some of your experience, and then again, we're going to go to the chat and open it up for Q&A. So Renee, go ahead.
Hello, once again, my name is Renee, and my company is Pamper Life Naturals. We're an all-natural skincare company based out of South LA, and we serve the LA area. My concerns really are...
You are echoing. Do you have two devices on?
No.
Okay, Arnetta, can you make sure everyone is muted?
Yeah, somebody is echoing now.
Go ahead, try it again, Renee.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, am I echoing?
No, you're fine so far.
Okay, good. Okay, so my concerns are safety, hygiene, and locations for the street vendors. As we sit and listen to the rules and regulations to the street vendor, my concern, oh, and also business participation, that's another one. My concern is like safety. So like, for example, as we've seen on the news, we have, we can't, these are things that we can't control. We can't control people getting mad and start shooting. We can't control people getting drunk and DUI. So I am concerned with my safety when I am vending, for example, because there are locations, like I'm in the South LA area where like it's just not safe. Like for example, over there on Manchester and Western, there used to be food trucks. They used to park in the Rouse parking lot, but then foolishness happened. And unfortunately, it stopped the food trucks from having a place to sell and post up for food. So then my thing is like, how can we protect ourselves from drunk drivers and getting shot? And then also too, how can we protect ourselves from being robbed? Because like I keep hearing the safety and number things, but the problem is that a lot of vendors, especially like Latino vendors, and I don't know if it's one thing, but it's a combination of many. Some Latinos are racist towards Black people, and some people do not want other people next to them because it makes it feel like competition towards them, and people are not friendly towards other vendors pulling up next to them and selling. So then it's like, what ways can we, go by, in a harmonious way and, still, allow us to conduct business and make a living, because we all have families and we all need to make a living. So then also too, it's like a lot of business owners are not favorable to street vendors. And I had a horrible incident at Lamert Park where it was a business owner who took over the beauty college located on 43rd Place. And Lamert Park, they have their own activities and people have their own events that go on over there. So I have no control over the trash or whatever that goes on over there, but how can I protect myself from business owners from trying to attack me or come at me aggressively because I'm sitting in the parking lot in front of their building selling? And then also with hygiene, I understand the importance of hygiene, and it has been emphasized for food vendors to have these carts that come with sinks. But then what about the merchandise vendors? Don't we need hygiene too? Like, for example, it was, I like the city, or I am happy that the city provided sinks and restrooms for the homeless during pandemic, but the city has not provided restrooms and sinks for the street vendors. And we actually pay our fees. So I understand that the fees go, towards enforcement, but then also too, it's like, can our fees go to porta potties and sinks for us? We're out there for like 4 to 6, sometimes 7, 8 hours, and we need to go to the bathroom and wash our hands. We can't depend on other businesses to accommodate us. We need our own facility.
So Renee, why don't we allow some of the presenters to answer some of your questions? Because you've thrown out quite a few questions there. Can we pause it and ask them to respond?
fine with me.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was just trying to get everything out.
Okay, I mean, there was a lot you said there. As far as safety issues, we like to, like you said, safety in numbers. But there are going to be instances where things happen. It doesn't matter how many people are out there. That's not something we could control. I know LAPD, a lot of the stations offer they'll hold a community meeting with some of the vendors and give them tips on how to possibly stay safe and, maybe not carry so much money at one time and different ideas that they have. That's not something that we necessarily do. What we provide you is a hotline number to where if you're having an issue with another vendor or a business that possibly harassing you, you can call this number and then we'll go out and try to mediate or at least advise the other party of, with the complaints we're getting and everything like that. It's like you said, we want everyone to be harmonious out there. But one of the bad things about this is it's not a site specific permit. Okay. So as long as you obtain the permit, you can sell anywhere within the city of Los Angeles, as long as you're in the public right of way or in the city park, but you have to follow the rules and regulations. Okay. I can give you that number, and I think Angelica might have it as well, but it's 213-814-1144. Like I said, you can use that as a complaint hotline for other vendors that possibly harassing you. Okay.
Can you repeat that number, David?
Sure. It's 213-814-1144. Okay. What was some of the other concerns you had? Because there was a lot.
You asked about tax revenue toward porta potties and that sort of thing for street.
Okay. Well, that's to be honest with you, that's never been asked before. But unfortunately, that probably wouldn't do anything. The fees alone, yes, they are supposed to go toward enforcement, but they don't even cover the costs that the city is putting out to do the enforcement for this program or to manage the program. It is a fee, yes, but like I said, it's not it's not even a cost recovery fee. So to try to get some services like that, and then not only that, but you have thousands of vendors out there. Where would people put where would the services be located? If they're all over the city. So that's another thing. But I mean, I guess we can discuss it, but this is the first time it has been brought up that I know of, at least to my office.
One of the questions that Renee brought to my attention, which I thought was a good idea, was like a lottery system, because what's happening out there is the competition between vendors that's bumping up against each other. And is there a route map or a specific plan of action where a vendor, if there's a hot spot where a vendor could set up, maybe they could do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then Mondays and Wednesdays, somebody else can do it on that particular street. Is there anything like that organized?
No, nothing like that at all, because that would be, to be honest with you, almost impossible to handle. What we would have to do is literally go out to every square inch of the city on the sidewalk and locate what parts, what sections are legal to vend, and then go from there. It's usually a first come, first serve type thing. And yes, we understand there has been some issues with vendors, especially now that it's legalized, with them trying to get in the higher volume locations. So, it's almost impossible to try to do it like that in a lottery type system.
Very good. Renee, you want to go ahead and take some questions?
We
look
have
at
two
the
hands that have been raised. Can
Very
I allow
good.
them to? Okay, Queen, you want to unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes. I had a question in regards to the commercial kitchen. It doesn't appear that there are many locations on the west side. I would say west side, west of maybe Crenshaw. So what would someone need to do to open a commercial kitchen? And I also heard there is funding resources to assist with that. So who would you be able to speak with in regards to that?
Well, that wouldn't be through my office. That would be a health department question. I don't know if Angelica, maybe you have some information or could provide some information to the health department regarding the those locations or about adding some.
If you have some suggestions, because I know that that was something that within the committees we're looking at. If you have some locations that can be turned into that, I've also spoke to somebody last week who they own their own building. It's a community group in Watts, and they want to actually. So my recommendation, if we have enough of that, is really then serve as a liaison with LA County Public Health and say, we have resources in the community that they have identified some locations. Where are we at? But that's something that LA County Public Health committees are working on. But if you have specific locations, I did put my email in, I'll put that again. If you could share those with me, and then I will circle back with Dexter. Maybe we do a separate one on this if there's enough interest on that with somebody from public health.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. We have a question from Nadia. If I'm pronouncing that correct, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, yes, you said it correctly. Thank you. My question is, as far as because the lady mentioned about food and hot dogs and corn and tamale, whatever. I sell Italian ice. And my question is, I was under the impression that there wasn't a cart out there for specific things like that. So is she saying that you can go purchase a cart? I'm not saying from a person, from like getting a cart built like here in Los Angeles, and then you would have to get it permitted, or I would have to find out if it could be permitted before I purchase it.
Again, they're open those numbers to be able to say, for instance, you know what you're going to sell if it's only that the ice. And if you know these are the types of carts, or I know someone who sells that, this is what I have, then that's what would be presented to public health, right? What would be under that criteria? When I shared those types of food, those are just because those are common. Again, what I also stated is that they're going to look at what other food would fit under that bucket. That's just the first prototype. There'll be multiple other prototypes to follow. But my recommendation is if you have an idea of what that cart might look like, then before it's purchased is actually working with public health and say, would this work? Would you approve something like this? Or what are your recommendations before you actually release any money? Working with public health.
Okay, and I have another question. This is not pertaining to Italian ice. I'm a vendor, a regular vendor at a particular area. And I just have a question as far as, just say, for instance, if you sell, because they're saying that you need this food permit if you sell food, period. So if you sell like Jamaican food or, things like that, how would that, is there a actual permit that you can actually get? Not a permit, an actual food cart that you can get to. Is there anyone like that exists?
Sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting you. You would actually be presenting them with a menu. So
Okay.
This is what I'm going to be selling. These are the condiments. And then they're going to look at, all right, these are the requirements for the types of food, the type of preparation is really how they're going to back into it, how many sinks I'm going to need, the refrigeration. That's how they're going to be looking at it, not so much in the ethnicity of the food, but what type of food, and is it similar to another type of food? And those are the requirements for that type of cart.
Gotcha. And then one last question. You mentioned, or I think it was you that mentioned about the city is proposing to assist vendors with monies to buy said carts. Is that still in the works, or how is that looking?
Right. They're not sure if it's going to be a lottery, the county as well. So whether it's going to be a lottery, whether it's going to be, all right, we'll pay 25% and you vendors pay 75%. It's not determined yet,
Right.
but it might be nonprofits that they turn to say, do you have some recommendations of some vendors in good standing that you've worked with that you can recommend to us? But again, if you can start with the merchandise vendor, that I highly encourage, because that shows you got skin in the game and I've made an investment. And that's a small investment compared to what the city or the county would invest in to assist with the cart.
Right, because I have all my permitting for merchandise. I would love to do it for I have everything that all the brands did. I would love to be amongst the ones that have the carts and all that or whatever. But yeah, the reason I just need more resources, because this was
Okay.
a good thing to go on, this webinar, to get more information, because there was a lot of that I didn't know. So thank you so much.
Very
Stay
good.
close
So,
to Dexter, because I'm gonna, I've already shared with my colleagues that I meet with once a month, is I'm gonna submit some of the community groups I've been working with as a recommendation of, they know our vendors and who in good faith have gone out there. So stay close to Dexter, and I'll do whatever I can on my end to raise my hand and say, hey, there's organizations that have been supporting the education part. How can we help them?
right.
Gotcha.
So,
Thank you so much.
thank you. So, Angelica, we are going to have part 2 next week, correct? We're still on for next week?
Yes, same
All right.
time,
All
1
right, so
o'clock.
very good.
Different
So,
perspective. We have another member of the enforcement team, so you'll have a different perspective. And if there is any specialties, if you need any parks, and we have that information too, then we would invite some of our colleagues from Recs and Parks. If there is more specifics we need on public health, then we can arrange to have a guest from public health as well.
very good. So again, if you all could join us again next week, Tuesday, same time, same bat channel, 1 o'clock. I believe it's the same link too. I think we created a link where it's the same link to get on this Zoom call. Angelica, if you can just go browse through the chat and see if there's any questions you can answer on the chat.
Can I
know we have
throw
a
one
couple-
out, Dexter, real quick?
Sure. No, sure. We still got a couple
Couple
more
times.
questions
Okay.
with hands raised. So Arnetta, if you want to go ahead and
Yeah, so this
moderate
was in
that.
the chat, and I see a couple more hands. So this, oh, where'd it go that quick? So this pertains to permits for those that are not selling food, not selling merchandise, but they're selling services. And example was given in another one, like educational services or campaigns. And I'm just going to throw it out there. I know some folks do like massages and things like that. So what is the permitting process for them?
Well, it's going to depend on what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing a massage, that's probably something that public health is going to be involved in, or the state of California. Okay. So it just depends on what you're doing. You can always call our office and we can clarify for you if you're going to need a permit from us or some other particular agency.
Mm-hmm. Paolo, if I'm saying that correct, you asked that question and you asked it twice. So do you want to come on and get more clarity? Paola Andrade, are you still there? Okay, maybe he went on. Okay. All right, so we'll take a question as Joyce Hamilton.
She's here. Paola is there.
Okay, oh, wait a minute. Who's that? Who said that?
Paola is here.
Yeah, we see his name, but he's not unmuted, or she. I don't know if that's a she or he, but Viola.
No, I'm here.
Oh,
okay. There you
¿Habla
go. I'm sorry.
español? Does she want it in Spanish? ¿Habla español?
Sí, yo hablo español.
Bueno,
Lo que pasa es
yo
que-
traduzco. I'll
Gracias.
translate. ¿Cuál es su
Gracias.
pregunta?
Mire, mi pregunta es la siguiente. Por ejemplo, nosotros trabajamos una parte educativa con relación a publicidad en negocios, ¿sí? Queremos proyectar como una mesa en ciertas áreas de la ciudad en donde nuestro equipo se dirige a los locales comerciales, habla con los dueños de negocio, pero pues de algún modo permanece en la calle. No es una venta directa de mercancía como tal, es más una cuestión promocional de un servicio relacionado con publicidad.
Ok, ya tengo bastante la información para preguntar. Gracias, pero se me hace que no, pero pregunto. David, I think this is more service related, not so much like a manicure massage, but it's a marketing team. So how about services? How are they classified if they're not selling merchandise, but it's somebody who wants to, in essence, I want to be out in the street to make my business known?
Yeah, I mean, if you're providing some sort of service, you're still in the public right of way. So yes, it would be covered by our office. I know it. We don't have a section on the permit for merchandise, but yes, it would be through ours if you're providing a service.
Okay, so in this case, they do a form of like marketing. They could out there and have a table and set up shop as well.
Yes, if
Yes?
they want, you can call us directly and
Okay.
let us know exactly what it is that they're doing, and then we can review it that way.
Okay.
That's fine.
Bueno, si puede hablarle a la oficina de ellos, nunca han tenido esa pregunta, pero quizás puedan ellos, cuando les explique lo que está tratando de ser, hay personas que hablan español ahí.
Maravilloso. ¿Me
Ok,
puede, por favor,
gracias.
me puede facilitar la información del señor
Yo se la
David?
mando directo, gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Okay,
Thank you, David.
we'll take a question from Joyce Hamilton and then Marcus.
Okay, hi guys. My question is very quick. I just wanted to know how many years can you get now that they extended? Can I get more years, or I can only just follow each year that goes through?
It's
As
only
far
going to
as
be
the
one,
license.
only
the-
1
the-
year at a time for a permit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Hey, okay. Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm glad to have this forum to learn a little bit more about this the street vending. I'm new to the street vending, and one of the things is I don't have a permit. I did one of those temporary ones, and I also had that 1 day liability insurance for a festival that was at Leimert Park on Juneteenth. But my question is, or if there's any resources for this question, being that I'm a new vendor, all these different fees that come up. There's some days when I'm out there, Leimert, where I don't even make any sales. I sell books and I sell my own t-shirts. And there's days where I don't sell anything, right? But at the same time, I still have all these different fees that I have to pay for as far as being out there for the porta potties and the security and stuff like that. So my thing is there any resources, grants or something for people that's just now starting out? Because like I said, I don't even have a permit yet to be out there as well. So I need help with getting that permit as well. So that's pretty much my question.
Marcus, what area do you live in? Because I know as we meet nonprofits, there are a couple that are looking at how they provide resources. One of them even included permits. So what area are you in? They were in Watts.
South Los Angeles.
Okay, if you can share your information with Dexter. And again, this is just a new partner that reached out to us, and we'll see what other resources are out there as it becomes available. For right now, we don't know about additional resources. We know that there will be some support for our vendors, but we don't know to what extent and what type of resources.
Okay,
Absolutely.
you said
So,
reach out to Dexter?
That'd be me. So that's
How
the
you doing,
LA
brother?
South Chamber of Commerce. I'll put the information in the chat there, Marcus. So stay connected with us. We have a whole concierge service team to help you get resources, help you get capital, help you get permitted, and all the above. So again, in the chat, all of our contact information. Arnetta, please put your information in the chat. Arnetta is part of our marketing team as well as on our concierge team. So Arnetta can also help guide folks that's on the call, especially vendors. And we have a section in our chamber that's going to focus on that with our concierge services to help vendors be successful. And that's important to us. Thank you.
All right, we have a hand from Christy Randolph.
Yes, I just had a question because I don't actually live in LA. I live in San Diego. And I think that I got this information to my business email because I had signed up for the Leimert Park on Juneteenth. And so I wanted to know, am I able still to get the permit even though I live here? Because I do want to vend in LA, but not strictly just off the street, like when they have certain events like the one I had signed up for.
Well, if you're going to be part of an event, you need to go through that event sponsor, and you got to make sure you have permission from them to allow you to be there. And like I was telling Dexter as well, when that person or that entity pulls that special event permit, part of that is saying that all the vendors who are there have to have the proper permits in order to vend. Now, if you're just going to go off on your own and vend within the city of Los Angeles, then yes, you definitely need a City of LA permit.
And you don't have to be a resident of the city of Los Angeles.
No, you don't. As long you just have to be selling within the city.
Right.
Okay.
And FYI, because we are going to start back hosting in-person events this fall, and part of our registration application is we do require you to have some form of permit and seller's license to participate in some of the events, especially if you're doing food. Definitely need to have a food permit from the public health department. So again, you know, we want to make sure that our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted, as well as our vendors, because we want a safe environment, and we also promote a healthy environment and a legal environment, which is important that we apply. You know, we are in compliance with the city and the county and the state laws, being a chamber of commerce. So just want to add that
Okay,
up.
I wanted to also respond back to the woman earlier. She was stating some of the events have safety issues. And I know Marcus had said that he had the liability insurance. I do commercial insurance. And if you go online sometime to some of these, like one day insurers, they have endorsements that you can add to your policy, which they're minimal to what it is. There's safety endorsements for if the event doesn't happen, if, you know, violence breaks out, all of these different things where you can get reimbursed. That may be one thing you want to do for bigger events or events that you don't feel safe. Put that liability on there and just claim it and get your money back.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Thank
All
you. Arnetta, anything else?
Yeah,
Anybody else?
Renee, you said you had some more concerns you wanted to discuss.
Okay, we got about 2 more minutes, y'all.
Okay, Renee.
2 more
we're gonna
minutes.
focus on you.
So Renee, you got to squeeze that in 1 minute, and then we'll be back next week, okay?
Okay, so then we have when is there going to be a list of areas that vendors can go? Because there's a list where vendors can't vend, but when is there going to be a list where recommended areas that vendors can go? Like the enforcement officer said, there is no specific place where your vending permit is at. You can go anywhere within the city limits where it's allowable and has room on the sidewalk. But when is there going to be a brochure coming out of areas, especially people who are new and don't know much about street vending, where people can go? Because there's a list of where you can't go, but there's not a list where you can go. That's it.
Well,
that's all I got to say.
Well, there's a list of where you can't go. Those are the specific locations, like the Staples Center, the Dodger Stadium, like that. You're allowed to go anywhere else in the city as long as you comply with the rules and regulations. So that, I mean, we can't, like I was saying earlier, we can't go through the whole city and mark every spot where you're allowed to do it. So that's why we came up with the rules and regulations. As long as there's a spot in the right of way that meets those rules and regulations, or you're not in violation of those, then you can vend there legally.
Very good. Well, thank all of you all for your time today. Thank you for your participation today. I know it's a lot. I'm sorry if we didn't get to everyone's question this afternoon. However, again, if you did put your information in the chat, hopefully we did answer most of your questions. We will be back again next week, Tuesday, same time, 1 o'clock, same Zoom channel. This particular webinar, as it's been recorded, will be posted on our YouTube channel later on this evening, and you could get that notification. So again, I know Arnetta put that information in the chat. Just click on there and subscribe, and then you'll know when that notification comes, when that video is posted. Thank you, Angelica, for your service, and thank you for this information. We're looking forward to next week. Thank you again to the officer that's on the call as well for participating. I think next week we have somebody different representing. And again, thank you, Arnetta, for your support with the back office stuff. And
Dexter.
Yes.
Sorry, quick question. Can we get Angelica's slides since there was so much information on there as an email?
Actually, the slides, we have the resource guide that's downloadable. The slides we don't email out. But if you go onto the website, you'll have the resource guide, which is a condensed version of everything we shared is in that resource guide.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then you can replay. We have past webinars, and then you'll have this one that we'd like to post this one on our website as well. Thank you, Dexter.
Very good. So again, thank you all. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week. Stay cool in this hot weather and keep your mask on when you go out in public. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a fabulous day.
Save the chat if you want to get the links and phone numbers and email addresses. You can save the chat by pushing the little 3 buttons next to file in the chat box. It'll say more, save chat, and you'll have it.
Very good. Thank you, Arnetta.
You're welcome.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.